Hello guys and welcome into the Mechanic Microscope. Today's topic is going to be for veteran Maw of Lorkhaj, specifically the color swap mechanic. Colors are persistent throughout the fight in Maw of Lorkhaj, but color swap in particular is only found in veteran Maw of Lorkhaj, therefore leaving a lot of players confused about what exactly is going on the first time they step in. So let's break it down and examine this mechanic under the microscope. To start us off, let's set the scene. I am going to keep the basics of this explanation very simple. My goal, instead of using in-game footage, which can be messy and hard to see and varying quality and depends on what add-ons you do and don't have, I'm going to explain these mechanics with a minimalist approach. The room that we walk into for this trial is circular, with the entrance being indicated by this rectangle and the exit being indicated by this rectangle. In the room itself, these are going to be decorative archways, and they aren't exactly opposite of each other, so that is something to take note, is that they aren't perfectly opposite of each other in the room. Secondly, while I have made this room more oval shaped, it's very circular in the game itself. But another thing to note is that there is what I call garbage lining the outside of this room. There's benches, there's archways, there's urns, and lots of other furnishings all around the outside that your character can get stuck on, can not dodge roll through. They all have hitboxes that can prevent you from seamlessly just following the walls around the room. And the room is also not perfectly flat around the outside. Along with this furniture, there are also little divots in the wall. So when trying to walk around the room, do make sure to give the walls some space so that you don't get stuck. Another thing of note is I'm going to indicate, using this dashed line, the candles that are lining perfectly down the center of the room, dividing it into the two halves. The halves we are going to be referring to are the entrance half and the exit half. Some raid leads will describe this as the near group, near to the entrance, or the far side, far from the entrance. Just get familiar with how your raid lead describes these two halves. Also in this fight, I'm using this yellow spiky sphere to indicate the light-headed boss Skinrai, which I'm just going to refer to the light-headed boss. And over here we have the dark blue-headed boss, which I'm going to have the blue spiky bow, and that is Vishai. Adding to this, we now need to add the players. For use of this diagram, I'm going to be having the tank as a diamond, healer as a heart, and DPS as lightning bolts. Right now, they are all of the black color. Black is going to indicate that there are no colors assigned to players. So keep in mind, yellow indicates yellow color, blue is blue color, and black is no color, or the absence of a head color. This is what the stacks look like prior to the start of pool. Yes, the far team can walk to that half of the room and stand between the two bosses, and so long as you don't attack them, they will not aggro. The start of the fight. The key feature is that everyone needs to stack tight on their tank's boss. Tanks are going to taunt their boss one time. This is to prevent over taunting. So each tank is going to aim for the boss on their right while they're facing the center. So this tank is facing the center. The boss on their right is going to be the blue or dark-headed boss. This tank facing the center on their right is going to be the light-headed boss. So upon taunting, the bosses will then move into the groups, and the healers and DPS need to stack tightly onto their respective boss. We then get color assignment. After 3 seconds into the fight, the bosses will have assigned colors to the 6 closest people to each of the bosses, will get the same head color as their boss. After color assignment, tanks now need to swap and position their bosses. The blue boss is going to be kept more near the wall on their respective side, and the yellow boss is going to be kept more mid-range, not quite to the wall, not quite in the middle of the room, somewhere in the middle of that. And this is what tank swap looks like, and then the respective DPS and healers follow their boss. And remember, you are always going to be attacking the boss and adds of the opposite head color as yourself. If you are the light head color, you're attacking the dark head boss. If you are the dark head color, you're going to be attacking the light head boss. Now to explain why we're using this positioning. The first reason is because the blue boss lays giant negate bubbles. Everyone, tanks, DPS, healers, all need to roll dodge out of this negate bubble as soon as possible. This is because negate bubbles prevent the use of Magicka-based skills. Along with that, these negate bubbles in particular also snare you, causing you to have reduced movement speed, and this type of negate bubble also hurts you. So, not only are you unable to do Magicka skills, you're taking damage, and you are slowed, making it take longer to get out of that negate bubble in any way other than just dodge rolling. So you want to dodge roll out of that negate bubble as soon as possible. And why we want the dark-headed boss placed near the outside is so that we don't fill up the center of this fighting area with negate bubbles. It also keeps the yellow team further away from the blue team, and part of this area is going to be up on the wall, which means that it's not usable game space anyway, so therefore less of the room is going to be covered in these negate bubbles. Therefore less chance for somebody to get knocked into it, to accidentally step in it, whatever. So again, as soon as this is laid, you need to dodge roll out. The dark-headed boss can end up placing 2 to 3 of these negate bubbles per cycle of the fight, so tanks will just need to move accordingly. And what's happening over here on the yellow team? Well, they don't have movement to deal with. Instead, they have something called laser beam. This mechanic is going to be a channeled beam onto whomever has aggro from the boss. Therefore, it should be the tank. The tank who is taking the beam cannot catch the interrupt to get the beam to stop. This beam incapacitates whoever it's hitting. Therefore, the damage dealers or healer need to interrupt by using bash or an interrupt skill to get the boss to stop channeling and stunning the tank. Another key thing is that this laser beam, even once it's done, it does lay a fire damage over time, so it can be helpful if a healer does have purge slotted and just purges this damage over time. The next key thing that is going to happen is going to be color swap. Color swap is 3 people out of the 10 individuals without taunt of each color will be randomly selected, and those with the color swap need to move to the other side of the room in a clockwise fashion. In short, 3 yellow team members are going to get color swap, and 3 blue team members are going to get color swap. This cannot affect the tanks, and it's going to be 3 of each color will get the color swap to the opposite color. An important thing to note is the tighter you are grouped up, which is very helpful for getting good buffs. During color swap, don't be afraid to step out of group to look at your feet and see if you have the color swap AoE. Just check yourself before you explode the group. In this example, 3 blue DPS and 3 yellow damage dealers are going to get this AoE underneath their feet. And again, this AoE can be rather difficult to see. These are 2 in-game images of what this AoE looks like. While the yellow one, I would say, especially in this darker room, is potentially easier to notice. The dark one is barely visible. So this is where it's going to be very useful to take a second. Don't worry about the healing. Don't worry about the damage dealing, and check that you are not getting color swap. When in doubt, the best thing you can do is to remove yourself from group, step way outside of group, and ask for assistance. This is the importance of having clear comms. Ask for help on your color, get somebody to look over, have a teammate tell you, you have dark aspect, you need to swap sides, or no, you have light aspect, come back into group. It's better to stop, check, and assess than to run around and not know what's going on. This is because if you have the opposite head color as a teammate, you will blow each other up. It's not, it does damage, not that it hurts a little bit, it is instant death. This is why it is so important to check your color than to run around and not know what your color is. So when in doubt, just ask for help from your teammates. Check yourself before you wreck your team with a large bomb that is yourself. So again, we've had 3 light colored and 3 dark colored damage dealers are now getting color swap. They need to move clockwise. This is because we want them to go first moving out of their groups, and then this gives them plenty of time to make their way to the other side. Again, first priority is to get out of group, and then move your way over. Notice how this team is going to be moving in a way that they aren't walking through the negate bubbles. Don't go through the negate bubbles. You don't need to. There's all this room here. There's no need to go through the negate bubbles. And this team here is giving wide berth. Again, first getting out of group and going around behind. You don't need to worry about getting in front of this boss because he has no frontal cleave ability that you need to be worried about. So you can then swing in front of him like this and get into group. And this is what that movement looks like. After the end of color swap, everyone that swapped now just has their new color assigned to them. And in this condition, both of the healers stayed. This will be important later on. So let's have this situation where both healers are swapping. They are going to be following the same exact rules as the damage dealers. Again, first priority is to get out of group through this movement of moving away from the group, and then going around clockwise, moving around the wall, but giving it enough room that you're not going to run into that extra furnishings, or in this case, not going to be hitting these negate bubbles. And again, we had the conditions of 2 healers swap. So, the healers now heal their new groups. This one is the much simpler, so if either neither healer moves or both healers move, you just now heal the side that you're on. Now, let's say instead of 3 damage dealers from each side, there was 2 damage dealers on one side and a healer, and 3 damage dealers on the other side. We now have the conditions of 1 healer stayed, 1 healer swapped. What's going to happen is the healer that didn't move heals the group close to them. Basically, they keep doing what they were doing before. The healer that did move now needs to heal the group across. Important note here. This healer that's healing across, you do not physically go to the across team. You are yellow color, or the opposite color. You cannot get close to that team or you will blow them up. You have to just lay your illustrious springs, you have to keep your altar up, throw a healing orb, try to spam some combat prayers. You have to do your best from range. In these situations, I can also see that it is helpful if sometimes the healer that didn't move sometimes can throw an extra AoE heal to the group across here. But normally in this fight, healing is not a problem anyway, so you don't need to be concerned about not being able to get a lot of your melee heals off. Your healing springs, altar, orb should be plenty for the group. This is another reason that it is important to keep your comms clear so that healers can call out, healers swap, healers stay. So this just takes reps, not panicking. Color swap is a very simple mechanic, but it is very easy to mess up. So, we've had the initial start of the fight, we've had color swap, now we get into prayer phase. This is where color awareness becomes very important. The start of prayer phase is whenever the bosses jump up into the air. As soon as the bosses go up into the air, everybody, damage dealers, healers, tanks, everyone needs to run. Not walk, not finish rezzing somebody, not cast one more skill, run to your X on your side of the line. Notice how yellow team is still staying on their half of the circle, blue team is still staying on their half of the circle. Doing their best to not get hit by negate bubbles, avoiding adds. You need to make your way to your corresponding spots. The X's are not actually there in the fight. I'm using those to indicate get as close as you can to this candle line on your side of the circle. Once we're all standing there, the bosses will already have landed. Where the bosses land is random. You could end up with light boss here, you could end up with dark boss here. It is random which side the bosses are going to land on. In this example, we are going to get the stay command. This is because we are on the side of the boss with the opposite head color. I've been saying that a lot. You want to attack the boss of the opposite head color. And during prayer phase, you want to be on the side with the boss of the opposite head color. This is very, very useful to keep in mind. So now that you are on your X, you've assessed that you are still actually on the correct side. You want to stay, and now everyone will be moving towards the boss of the opposite head color, going back towards their boss. Note, during this phase, if there are still adds up, tanks need to pull adds of the opposite head color from themselves. So if you're a dark-headed tank, you're going to be pulling in light adds. If you're a light-headed tank, you're going to be pulling in dark adds. Tanks are going to be pulling in adds. Damage dealers, we want to make sure to focus damage on those adds during this phase. Clean them up so that we can go into the next phase with a clean slate. And once we are all huddled near our boss, there's going to be an explosion. During this explosion, your color assignment goes away. It's like the beginning of the fight all over again. And this is why having a clean slate can be helpful. During this color assignment, again, just like at the beginning, you are going to want to hug your boss that's on your side. Now, this is prayer phase in a stay mechanic. Let's talk about if we had another example of prayer phase where we're instead going to get the swap. This is going to be right at the beginning of prayer phase. The bosses now jump up into the air. When they jump up into the air, everybody runs to their corresponding spots right in front of the candles as fast as they can, because before you can even reach there, the bosses have already landed. Now note, yellow-headed individuals are on the side of the room with the boss with the same aspect. That's not what we want. We want the opposite aspect. Same with this side. Dark-headed teammates are on the side of the boss with the dark head. We do not want that. You will need to do a swap and move to the opposite side because you want to be on the side of the boss with the opposite head color. And they are already channeling the prayer that is going to create the boom. This is why it's very important, because it's much easier to get from here, take one step over here, and be safe than it is to be all the way over here and then start running. It's one of those by the time you notice, it's too late type of situations. So you want to make sure that you are well on your way to hugging the boss of the opposite head color before the explosion. And a deeper understanding of the mechanic is that this explosion, the prayer, you are being protected from the explosion by your head color. Head colors correspond to bosses. A very important note is do not kill bosses during prayer phase. If you kill one boss, you lose head color. If you lose head color during prayer phase, the other boss that's still alive will finish their prayer, cause an explosion, and the group will wipe. So it's very important during prayer phase you do not kill one boss without killing the other. Again, this is a very fast mechanic. It takes all of 4 or 5 seconds. You have to be very close with your time between the two bosses, and that's usually not the case. Usually the dark-headed boss, Vishai, is about 10 to 20% behind the light-headed boss, just in an average group. That is not feasible, so just very careful. Do not kill one boss without the other during prayer phase. And upon completion, again, we get the colors removed, and it's rinse and repeat. And with that, guys, you now know everything you need to know about color swapping in Veteran Maw of Lorkhaj. Thank you all for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown of Maw of Lorkhaj. I've actually had this presentation made for a while because I'm a very picture, minimalistic type of explanation person that finds this type of resource useful. So if you like this video today, make sure to like, and if you have any other mechanic that you would like a breakdown of, please comment down below. I love explaining mechanics for fights in the Elder Scrolls Online, and I love trying to figure out a way to explain them. So if this is your type of content, make sure to subscribe because I plan to put out plenty more of these videos in the near future. But with that, guys, thank you all so much for joining me today. If you have a good time and you want to catch more of this type of training content, make sure to check us over on Twitch. We are live 4 days a week over there. You all have a lovely day, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye!